Hey, my amazing listener. I am like doing what I never do, and that is popping in before the episode even starts because I've got a favor to ask you. It'll take you like 2, possibly 3 minutes to do this favor for me. But the Big Small Business Survey has just opened for 2023, and I would love for you to be one of the small business owners who has their voice heard. You can go to all the W's, the big small business survey.com, and you can fill out the survey there. I'm doing the survey with some other amazing humans in the business space here in Australia, including Dale Beaumont, Andrew Griffith, David Jennings, and of course, Katrina McCarter. So, all five of us would really appreciate you taking the time to go to the big small business survey.com and filling out the survey. Thank you. All right, here's the episode. Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Well, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 262 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making me one of them. Now, if you can hear my Charlie in the background, so Charlie is my pet peacock. It is now springtime. It is now time for Charlie to find a girl best friend. So he's very, very noisy. He loves to sit outside my office window and seems to know when the microphone comes out and has decided that now is a really good time to be singing out to any lady friends around the district. So please forgive my Charlie if you can hear that noise in the background. Otherwise, you may hear tractors, trailers, farmers. It's a very busy time here on the farm, being spring, hay season, and harvest coming up. But these are the joys of producing a podcast when you live on a farm. So I hope the background noise does not annoy you too much, but might give you a tiny little insight into my daily life. Of course, today's going to be a really great episode. I've got a wonderful guest coming on. Her name is Jessica Osborne. For those of you playing at home, you may or may not remember she was my guest way back on episode 72. But she's back today, and we're talking about raising prices without losing customers. It's a fantastic conversation. Can't wait to share that with you. But before we get into that, a couple of things. First of all, did you have a chance to listen to last week's episode? It was an episode where I talked about generational marketing. So, marketing to the different generations like Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers, etc., etc. It definitely created some really great conversations in my community of listeners. I've had some interesting emails and DMs all around generational marketing. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that one, do back and listen to episode 261. Of course, a big shout out to this week's sponsor, which is Turn Back Time Radio. Neil Butler is a good friend of mine, and he has a voice for radio. And of course, his radio station is amazing, but I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about it.
Are you tired of listening to the same old radio stations, the same sound, the same tired jokes presented by the same voices? Then have I got some news for you. Turn Back Time Radio is here, playing the very best music of the past 70 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. No ads and no presenters talking over the tracks. Just songs you know, back to back to back. You can download the free Turn Back Time Radio app for your Apple or Android device and listen wherever you go. And unlike the streaming services, it won't cost you a single cent to listen. Free to listen, songs you know, uninterrupted 24/7. This is radio as it should be. Find out more about Turn Back Time Radio on our website at www.turnbacktime.radio. Turn Back Time Radio. Great music, great times. It's radio as it should be.
Thanks, Neil, so much for supporting. And of course, you can find a Time Radio at turnbacktime.radio. As I mentioned earlier, my guest this week is Jessica Osborne. She's an experienced marketing strategist, business coach, and the host of her own podcast, to which I have been a guest, called She's the Business Podcast. She's also an author and a mum of two. She spent about 20 years building successful business brands around the globe and then ditched her top executive job. Hands up, any listener who ditched their executive job or their corporate job and turned into an online business owner. She turned to the online business world to find flexibility and work life balance with a young family. After founding two online businesses of her own since 2010, Jessica found the key to having less work and more life, and compiled her strategies into basically a simple framework that others can do the same. Now, with regards to less work, more life, just want to add in here that Jessica is coming live to me in this podcast interview from her caravan. So she definitely lives her ethos that she teaches other people. She helps female coaches and online professionals magnetically attract high quality clients so that they have a fulfilling and wildly profitable business. Can't wait to share this conversation with you today around raising your prices. We are all in business to make money, so this is a really important conversation to have. I love all of Jessica's insights, as will you. So let's dig in. Hey, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Jen. It's so good to be here and chatting with you. We always have a great time together, so I'm looking forward to it.
We do. Episode 72. So it was a little while ago that you
Yeah.
were on the podcast. But that was a great conversation that we had around naming your business because anyone who
Mm.
hasn't listened to episode 72, it was Jessica Osborne. Her business name is her name, whereas obviously I had named myself something different. But you must have put some trigger because I am transitioning into Jen Donovan as time moves on. So you were
Aha.
probably the winner of that discussion in the end for sure.
Just triggered a little spark in there, but no, well
Yeah,
done. That's awesome.
definitely. But for someone who hasn't listened to episode 72 and would really
Mm.
like to get to know you a little bit more, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Jessica Osborne. I'm a coach. Look, I say a business coach, marketing coach. I coach in the marketing space, but it's really about strategy. And I help my clients who are service-based business owners to really nail their niche strategy. And yes, everybody has a niche, whether you think you do or not. Really nail it. So you can actually step into that place where you're working at your highest value, which means that you're specialized in the area where you can be most profitable, that you love, that actually lights your soul on fire instead of making it feel like it's hard work. And what that means is obviously you can have a business that's more profitable, you can spend less time working. And I'm a huge proponent of less work, more life. And if you could see me now, you'd see I'm actually recording this from a caravan. We're driving around Australia for 8 months right now with my two kids, my husband, and I'm really a big person who loves to walk the talk. And it's all about less work, more life. And I fully believe that that's down to your business strategy and how you design it. It's, you can literally make anything you want happen if you want to. And so, yeah, that's really what I do, help people to design their business that they would love to have, that gives them the revenue, the income, the fulfillment, the excitement that they really want.
Yeah, less work, more fun. That sounds like a really great. I hope that's written on the back of your caravan. For everyone who follows you gets a little bit of a nudge.
I should do that. Hashtag less work, more
Yeah,
life.
that's it. That's
So,
it
yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
Oh goodness. So you really to me, you are that niching queen, someone who talks a lot about that. But as we were talking about prior to pressing record, part of niching is that knowing what you're worth, having that, I guess,
Mm.
pricing strategy, or not really part of niching, but part of having a successful niched business is
Yes.
that. So
Mm.
that's obviously something that you talk about. Can you give us a bit of a context of, niching and then pricing and how that looks inside, I guess, your head or your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, where do I even start? I love this. Look, to me, when I talk about niching, and I'm not going to go huge into it because it's a whole episode or more, even on its own, but what we're talking about when we niche is specializing. And so you can replace the word niche with specialization. And specialization obviously means it's partly what you do, it's partly who you serve, it's that lovely mesh of the two together. And I like to bring in, your unique value and really create a three-dimensional niche that no one can really compete with you in, which is fantastic. And so obviously once you have that, the next part of the puzzle when it comes to your strategy is the pricing, your service offering. And this is where I find, even if someone has nailed their niche, sometimes they don't quite understand the pricing strategy and how to price so that it's aligned even with your niche, so that it is easy for the right clients to sign up with you or even want to work with you. Because it's not always just about having that messaging there and the right positioning. It's also what you're offering. And I do find time and time again, I've worked with clients and they've got a big disconnect in who they say they're targeting and then what they're offering. I'm like, it's not a surprise that it's not selling, because you've got a huge disconnect here that's not going to gel with that ideal client that you say that you want to work with. So sometimes we end up changing both. It's like, who is it that you really do want to work with, or which one is it? We need to do some adjustment there to bring them into alignment for it to work. But pricing is, I think, one of the things that we find the hardest. People don't love to talk about it. Everybody spends a long time deliberating over it. I'd have to say, I've been there as well, like figuring out that pricing, whatever they're doing, spreadsheets, figuring out how long they're going to take. Like, it can just suck hours and hours and hours out of your day. And women, I think in particular, tend to undercharge. And I really am passionate about changing that, because there is so much behind this. There's so much that we've brought into it that's actually nothing to do with our business right now, nothing to do with our value. And we're bringing in all of this preset, thoughts and ways of being around pricing that's causing us to undercharge. And I think we need to get rid of that so that we can really charge appropriately for the value of what it is that you're providing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the education comes from several different points of view. Like, yes, we need to value ourselves and that, but in some ways, I think it's up to us to educate people as to why we charge what we charge. Like, if I said to, like, I guess, my children who are, in their early 20s that, I get paid $2,000 or $3,000 to stand on stage for an hour, like, that's kind of like mind blowing for them. How can you, and like, that's probably compared to other people I know that charge $10,000 or $25,000 for an hour keynote or something like that. But it's that education of, well, it's just not the hour. You're just not paying me for that hour to be on stage. You're actually paying me for all my expertise. You're paying me for all my education. You're paying me from being the lifetime learner that I am. So somewhat that is part of the conversations I think we need to have as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that this is often come from our experience that we all have as being an employee. Like, we've all grown up, we've probably all had a job. I think maybe there's been a few unicorns who have come out and just started their own business right from when they were kids and they've never worked for anyone else. But most people have worked in you pay me for my time. Like, I do this many hours and I get paid this much. And it's a very much this time-based, pay for time thing that we've grown up with. And it's a really hard thing to get rid of and to kind of start thinking differently too, because we've lived and breathed it for so long. And that's where, I find, like you said, that, you're standing on stage for an hour and you're getting paid this much. It's like, no. There's a lot more that goes into that. Like, what even about just the preparation for that time that you're on stage? How long do you spend creating that presentation, practicing it, researching the audience? Who are they? Who am I speaking to? What kind of things would be relevant for me to share with them? Like, it's not like you're getting up and regurgitating the same thing that you say over and over again to different audiences. It's like, no, each one, a really good speaker who's paid to speak would know that, I'm getting up, and to me to connect good presentation, I've got to connect with that audience. So there's so much that even happens just in that one instance, let alone, as you said, all of your experience that leads you to have the stuff to talk about and to be able to take them on a journey. So that's where it's like you can blast away that 1 hour of you on stage. It's way, way more than that. And, what is that even worth? Well, who knows? How can you even can't put a time frame on it, but you can put, well, what do I feel good about being paid to do this?
Mm.
What do I feel like I am valued to do this, and that I'm excited to be paid, and not resentful of how much effort it's going to take me to go and present there. And so there's a difference there. So it's sort of, coming to that pricing piece, is it's not about your time. It's actually more about that alignment, energetic alignment, with you getting up and feeling like, well, yes, I feel really great that this person is going to pay me this amount for my time. I don't feel like it's too much. I don't feel like it's too little. It is the right amount for me. And that will obviously
Yeah.
always change as well as you get older, as you grow, as you even bring more to the table.
Yeah, I think so. I think so for sure. I've definitely been known as someone who has been asked for a quote, and I've written the figure and pressed send before I can change my mind. It's just like, "Ooh, that feels like a really big figure," but anyway, and they've more often than not come back and said, "Sure." You're like, "Oh, okay." So it was a big figure to me, wasn't a big figure to them. But interesting, pricing was one of the things that we did as a section for the Big Small Business Survey. So last year, myself and 4 other amazing business coaching, marketing coaches here in Australia, we got together and did the Small Business Survey. The Big Small Business Survey. I need to get that rhythm right, don't I? But I was just looking here at like some of the findings. So when it comes to pricing, it said, when it comes to increasing prices, the biggest concerns included 46% of people were concerned they would lose customers if they put their prices up.
Yeah.
26% thought that they would lose out to their competitors if they put their prices up. Figuring out how much to raise prices, 21% had issues with, well, if I'm going to put them up, how do I even figure that out? And 12% said that they had trouble communicating their price increases with their customers or with their clients. So it is something that eats at us in the middle of the night. If someone said to me, what's the one thing that keeps your clients up in the middle of the night? Pricing would definitely be up there together
Yeah.
with, marketing and budgets and things like that. But pricing structure
Yeah.
is definitely there. So those
Mm.
46% of people are concerned that they would lose customers. And so if you add that with the competitors, what's that? That's 60, that's 72% of people are afraid they're either going to lose them or lose them to competitors. What's your
Yeah.
advice there?
It's crazy, isn't it? And like the
Yeah.
first thing that happens as soon as somebody doesn't buy is we tend to go, it's the price, right? That is our automatic default. Brain will go straight away, I'm going to make that mean that the price is too high. And so what tends to happen then is we start thinking, well, what are other people charging? Going out there to the market, looking at thinking I've got to be competitive, and that means pricing lower. And this is where, I'm just going to come out and say it, that, if you're in a service-based business, this is for you more so than the product-based. But it is not any of your business what anyone else is charging. And what they're charging has absolutely nothing to do with you, because you are not them, they are not you. You're not apples on a shelf. You're not in Woolworths going, well, which apple will I buy? They're both apples. They're both going to give me the same kind of thing. Like, maybe not Granny Smith versus Pink Lady, they're a bit different, but like it's nothing to do with the price. And so where we think, wow, we're going to lose clients, or my competitors, that a competitor instead. If you're in a place where you're honestly thinking that your customers are buying from you because of your price, then you've really got a lot work to do in your marketing strategy. Because if they're seeing you as cans of baked beans on the shelf, that they're just choosing which one is the cheaper one, then there's really no value there that you've built. There's nothing that they're choosing you over and above. But I would have to say 9 times out of 10, this is not the case. This is just what your brain is telling you is going to happen. And it's not about your price, whether they choose you or your competitor. It's so much more about the right fit, the right energetic fit, the right relationship. You've got the experience, you've got the understanding of a business. Like, there are just so many examples out there. Can even think of something that feels commoditized, like let's say website design. There's so many website designers. You can go on to Fiverr, you can go onto Upwork, you can get one from overseas, you can get local ones. Like everyone is doing them. Even the companies who used to just do domain name purchasing, no, they now offer you websites. Like there's so many
Even our
places.
radio station, our local radio station now
Yeah.
offers digital marketing and building websites as part of that package.
There you go. You see, there's so many people out there, and it's not about someone's out there shopping thinking, well, I'm shopping around for the cheapest price. The only reason they would ever do that is if they feel like these are all just cookies out of the same cookie cutter, and I can't see any other difference other
Mm.
than the price. So your best thing is actually, and this is why it's so relatable to niching, is to actually step apart from what you see other people doing. Actually forget about what they're doing, figure out what it is. What is your space? Where are you best? Who do you best work with? What are the sites that
Mm.
you really feel aligned to, what to build, and you do an amazing job at them because this is where you really shine? Well, your price, of course, it's going to be more than what some other people are, and there's going to be a right price for everyone out there. So you don't want to be the person for everybody looking for a website, because that's everybody, right?
Yeah.
You know, do
Yeah.
you want the person who's the bargain hunting, penny pinching person who is potentially even a hard customer to deal with because they are like trying to eke every last bit of value out of their cents? Or do you want someone who's actually like, no, my website is something of huge value to me. I want it right. I want to have a good experience. I want someone who knows what they're doing and is prepared to pay the price for it. So they're not looking for the cheapest to
Yeah.
begin with, that person.
Yeah.
They're looking for something else.
Some customers are really great ones to give you to your competitors. I learned that very early in business. But some customers, you're like, yeah, please go to my competitors. We aren't a good fit at
Yeah,
all. So I guess for the
exactly.
12% through that survey that said they don't know how to communicate price, rises or price changes in their business, from a marketing point of view, because you've got both, like, you're an amazing marketer, amazing business coach, and, you're talking about this pricing type of thing. Any tips on how you would actually put your prices up and then how you communicate that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I will just circle back slightly a moment, because part of this is actually being okay with the fact that when you do put your
Yeah.
prices up, some people may leave, and that's not a bad thing. What
Hmm.
I've seen time and time again is actually when you get rid of the people who are out of alignment with you now, like they're at a level lower than you, they're at a budget level, and you've raised up to a level that you want to be at, that is correct for you. It's okay that some of those people fall away,
Hmm.
because you actually create space to allow in some who are at your alignment level, who are at that higher level, who will think that it's amazing value what you're providing and be more than happy to pay for it. Now, you might think,
Hmm.
well, that sounds lovely. Does that ever really happen in real life? I get it. But yes, it does actually happen in real life. I've seen this time and time and time again with my clients who've, had a full load. They've been at capacity. They're not earning what they want to be earning. And when we've done the pricing, they're like, oh, well, some people aren't going to like this. I'm like, well, you put it out there. It's their choice. They can
Hmm.
choose to stay. They can choose to leave. Either way, you're happy because you don't have any resentment for what you're getting paid anymore. And the funny thing is, often I get a call or an email like a day or two later going, oh my God, guess what? That client left, and I've just had a call with my dream client and they're signing up. And it's like, see, all you had to do is create the space and you get the
Hmm.
right ones in. Now, yes, it may not happen the next day for you, but for me, I firmly believe, I've seen this happen so many times. I'm like, it's okay. Get rid of the dead weight. Get rid of the ones that aren't the right ones for you, because why are you holding on to them anyway? They're probably not the people that you want to be working with, right? If they're not prepared to
Yeah.
pay you what you think you're worth, then they're not the ones that you want to hold on to. So
Yeah.
then you ask, how do you actually communicate a price rise? Well, look, there's many different ways of doing it as well. So there's not just one way. It's not like, well, I just have to do this price and this is the only way to do it. I think really I love to always look at, well, what is your business? How does it work? What would feel the right thing to you to do? And sometimes you might raise prices for new coming in and retain
Mm.
clients on what they're on, especially if you've got a finite agreement. So with
Mhm.
me, with my business coaching, people aren't just signed up for their whole life forever and ever more. It's like, well, there's a time frame on it. So whatever they came in at, that's what they pay when they finish.
Yes.
If they want to come back or do something new in the future, hey, the price might be different because then they come again. So it's, for me, it's always just with the new, which means that I don't go out to people saying, oh, well, you signed up to this and now you're going to pay that. But that's a choice that I can make. And I know that sometimes when you run a retainer kind of arrangement with clients, that maybe you've had a client for years and years and years, it's different because it is ongoing and you want it to be ongoing, maybe if they're the right client. So then you do have to communicate it, and that's a different kind of process. So you could think, well, right, well, what is it about this? How do I share it? What is it that we're really afraid of? Are we afraid of saying, hey, by the way, we've done some working and the price for this service is actually going to go up by X amount? Is that really bad? Should we feel guilty about that? Like, everything in our lives is going up. Housing, food, petrol, like everything's going up. Why would your clients expect you to not raise your prices, especially over whatever period of time it is that you've been working with them? Because I think most people who've got this problem have probably had the client for a year, 2 years, it's like a long-term clients, and you're afraid of raising prices. Well, I would think they would be expecting it at least once a year, because that's, you work at a job, you get a pay rise once a year as CPI goes up. Just like detach from the meaning of it and actually be like, hey, you know what? This is what it is. You can, if you really want to, and you've got some client that you really want to hold on to and you know that it's going to be a struggle for them, hey, well, again, it's not just option A or B. Think of option C. What if you said, well, for this one, I might do an incremental increase. So it's not just bang 1 month a jump, but it's like, it's just going to go up by a little bit each month until you get to that level. Like, I don't know, you figure out, because you're in charge, this is your business. There are no rules around it. Like, figure out what feels good to you and what will work for you. But I think the main thing is to be confident about it, to not feel guilty, to not be apologetic, to actually just be like, no, this is what it is, because that's the value of it. And if they really, really don't like it, then they're not the right client for you, and they're not worth holding on to.
Yeah. And some really great points in there. It is your business. You do get to make those decisions, and you do get to say what you would do. Like, not everyone has to be the same price. It's different for e-commerce. I get that, but I think e-commerce in some ways have got it a little bit easier. Depending on what the price rise is. But sometimes, if we're just buying a product, we just buy the product. We don't really realize that products prices are necessarily going up, if it's a small sort of incremental change. But I think it is that consumer expectation that everything else is going up. So it's kind of like, well, I expect that to sort of go up. But on the reverse flip of that, everything is going up. So what if a small business owner is listening to this and going, well, my clients, I really know my clients. I really know my ideal client, and I know that their mortgages have gone up and their car loans have gone up, and they're struggling in their businesses to put their prices up. How do you get over that? I guess it's kind of a different type of fear. Yes, we're afraid of losing people. We're afraid of losing people to our competitors, but we're also just afraid because we know that the economics of our GDP in our world just aren't as great as what they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I love that question, because I do see sometimes people posting about it, and I'm like, you know what? Your perception on that is all about what you tune into and what you choose to listen to. So you can tune into all the negative Nancy news going on about how terrible it is, or you can walk down to, I don't know, like pick your Toorak, Broadbeach on the Gold Coast, go into just go and watch all the people splashing their cash around and go, well, where is this bad economic situation? Like, yes, there are some people who are struggling. I'm not going to say there aren't. There are people who are struggling, but there are plenty of people who are not at all. And so it's about what you choose to see in your vision. What are you focusing on? And, I'm going to kind of take this a little step further, because I work with quite a lot of coaches and especially people who are in a life coaching sort of business, where they're really helping someone out of a tough time, whether it's, I've had some who work with grief people, and people who are going through grief and processing it, and all sorts of other really difficult personal circumstances. And so they work with people who are have difficult circumstances. Maybe they're in the process of going through grief. They might have some, it might be more on the psychology side and be processing trauma and all sorts of things. And I think that as the business owner, especially again, us women, tends to feel like we take on almost responsibility for our clients, and that it's our responsibility to help them. And, yes, you are helping them through that, but their financial situation is not your responsibility. You do not have to make yourself affordable to everybody who needs you. And I know might sound like could be a little bit harsh, but it's not. That's not what your business is there for. It's not there to help everybody who possibly needs you. Your business is there to serve and to make an impact in the world, but it also is not a business unless you are profitable and you're making money. That money that you're making, it's not just about you. Again, it's not like, oh, well, I'm greedy and I just want to have all the money. It's not that at all. It's like your business is there to serve you and to serve your family, but it's also paying contractors. You're paying for software, business services, all of the things that you pay out of your business, and that's going to other people. That's helping their families. That's helping those people's lives and the people then who they're paying to help run their businesses. You're just feeding the economy. So that price that you have, it's like we just need to detach from any guilt around, well, I've got to be affordable for those people. Well, actually, you don't, because there are people at all levels. Maybe you're now at a level that they may not be able to afford you anymore, and that's not your fault. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. That's just how it is. And yes, there'll be someone else out there who they can afford. Is it actually a matter of they can't afford it, or that they don't want to spend the money on it? And this is a lovely thing. I love to break down this little pricing mindset, shall we call it, because sometimes people say to you, I can't afford that. And it's like, but then what is it that they're comparing your price to? Because are they out there spending 3 times as much on something like, they might go to the hairdressers and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they're telling you that they can't afford to spend $50 on something. Or, it's usually very disconnected. And so anytime someone's saying I can't afford it, is it literally you do not have the money in the bank, or are you choosing to prioritize other things? And what is it that you're comparing this price to? So I've had people say to me before, oh, well, a lawyer, doesn't charge that. And I'm thinking, what has that got to do with anything? Like a lawyer, I'm pretty sure there are lawyers that charge a hell of a lot more than I do. So whatever your perception is about what a lawyer charges, they've got like one little number in their head thinking that's what it is. And it's like, there are lawyers that charge all sorts of different rates. The lawyer that processes your papers for your house sale is going to be very different to your divorce lawyer or someone who's in the courtroom. Like there is no price. There is no one set price. So stop comparing it to trying to compare it to something. And that's kind of a bit of a strategy I coach my clients through when they are doing their pricing, is instead of allowing them to find something to compare it to, you give them a comparison. Give them something that they can compare your price to. That is obviously better, logical and fair, but it's not something random, because your prospective client might suddenly compare it to, I don't know, their TV subscription for the month, or God knows what. Like they're like, well, I'm not paying that much a month. Foxtel's a lot less, or I don't know.
Yeah.
We are strange. Humans are weird. We attach
Yes.
unrelated things. And often someone might say to you they can't afford it, when actually it's like they haven't not got it in perspective, and or they're currently prioritizing something else they're spending money on that's potentially not as valuable to them.
Yeah, or they can't afford not to. You won't pay me X, but what does it look like if you don't get this problem solved? What's that going to cost your business, or what's that going to cost your family or your life if you don't get it solved?
Yeah.
So my business model, and I know a lot of people's business models, if they feel that way, that they want to service people that can't afford them, then I have a couple of hours in my diary every month. I open 4 hours every month or 2 hours every month, depending on, what the month looks like. And that's when I take people who perhaps can't afford, to do a little half-hour call with them or something like that. So it's my way of going, well, if I really want to help small business owners, sometimes I want to help the people who can't afford to pay me what I'm worth. So I'm going to open a slither and have it that way. So if that really eats you inside, have a look
Mm,
at your business model. Can you work in that 2 hours a month or something like that, where that can fill your soul in that place where you think it's missing? Or have the referral strategy. When someone says, I can't afford you, that's perfectly okay. You know what? I've got this person, this person, and this person who are amazing, who might be more in your,
yeah.
your price brackets or something like that. So you're still giving to this person. You're
Yeah.
just not, taking them, no is not no. No is, here you go, I can help you in this way. So I think, there's ways around it, because I think as
Mm.
women, we do have this, we want to help everyone type
Mm-hmm.
of thought process. I don't know whether it's, that ingrained in us in our DNA. I don't
Mm.
really know. And not all women. But certainly there are a lot of women out there who do want to help, but also realize they need to be able
Yeah.
to be paid exactly what they're worth.
Yeah. And that's again, another way to look at it as well. I love how you can have those couple of hours there where you do some pro bono. That's a really great idea. And then the other way is actually even looking at your own business and your service stack and how you offer your services. Well, is there a way that you could offer a lower level, more DIY, less high touch
Mm.
version?
Yeah.
And by the way, you probably already do. So, for example, you and I both have podcasts. I have a podcast. I do so much content on there. You can listen to my podcast, get free content until you are sick to death of hearing my voice. You're like, seriously. I have a free Facebook group. You can join that. I'm in there. You ask me a question, I'll answer it. Like, there are so many things that we actually already do that we maybe aren't even noting to ourselves are us providing stuff for free for people who, well, I don't do my podcast for people who can't afford it. I do it because, hey, I love to talk, as you can probably tell. But it's like a way of me really reaching out. I think it's a great thing, and I really enjoy it. I love to interview with people, and Jen has been on my podcast. You can come and hear her episode there too. But it's like we do that, and then maybe there's a low level, like a low really DIY version of what you do that you can provide
Mm.
to someone at a really low cost. So if they're really at that budget hard stage where they're starting out and they don't have money to spend, that's absolutely fine. Hey, guess what? You can take this and DIY it. And yeah, it's not going to
Yeah.
be as good as working with you one to one, but hey, not it's like that doesn't mean that you have to bring yourself down to be able to serve everybody. And it's not about up and down either. I don't want to get that perception that you're up on this high pedestal and there's someone there. It's just being okay and detaching from this. We don't have to be the right one for everyone.
Yes.
And that, you will still, there's not a scarcity of potential clients out there either. So if someone does come along to you who is below that budget range and is really like, oh, I'm not sure if I can afford it, and you've worked through, well, is that a case that not being able to afford it, or, work through all those money things to really get to that place? No, there's literally no money in the bank. Okay, well, that's great. How about you start off with this? Here's a free resource. You can go and do that. And when you get to the point where you do have some money, you can come and see me, or you can go and, like you say, you could refer them on to somebody else who might be able to help them. And that's fine. It doesn't mean that you're not then going to get someone else walking in the door because you've let that one go. And I think that's often underlying, right? We might not consciously think that, but I think that this is an underlying thought or belief that we often have around that. Is like, anyone who comes to us, we've got to find a way to be able to service them. And we try. So some of the service providers who put quotes together might be like, oh, like starting to giggle when I say this. Do you sit behind the scenes after having a call and trying to figure out how to put together a package that is exactly right for that particular client? And
Yeah.
knowing that they're budget conscious, undercutting yourself. But what happens then when you start working with them and you're like, I'm only getting paid this much and I'm putting in just as much effort as I was for that thing I was paid 3 times as much for? you start to get resentful. You maybe aren't
Mm.
putting in your best. And is that really what's working the best for you in your business? To get up and feel resentful about some work that you're doing, or to be not giving it your all because you're not in that place where you're feeling valued. And it's not a win-win situation, because that client isn't going to get the best experience and you're not going to have the best result either, which results
Mm.
are partly what helps to sell you to new people coming in, right? They want to see that you get good results. You're not going to get the best results if you're feeling any kind of resentment towards that client. So for me, I always say that's a lose-lose situation. You're better off not doing it at all. You're better off just going, it's okay. I will release you. I'll let you go back out into the market and whoever else, or they can start with something free and you can scale them up when they have some money. But usually I find people do have the money, they're afraid to spend it. And that actually comes into something totally different. It's really, are you showing them the authority and the trust that they need, that you're the right person to help them, because they're holding on to that money and they're not wanting to let it go.
Mm. This has been such a great conversation. I'm sure we could talk several more hours about this. Even myself, like, there's more questions that, are kind of leading on from what you've already said and everything like that. But I think it's a really great, for my listener, I'm hoping that perhaps their mindset is just changed a little bit, or they're really sort of considering what blocks they're putting in front of themselves when it comes to prices. Whether you have an e-commerce business or whether you have a service-based business, we all do it. I remember in my retail days, my business partner and I'd be like, what would people pay for that? And then it's kind of like, well, actually, what should we charge for it to make it profitable so that we can still be here next year? But it is this
Yeah.
question that just comes up over and over again. So I can't thank you enough for giving us your knowledge and just having a really open discussion about pricing and pricing strategies. So thank you so
Thank you,
much
Jen.
for this today. I was going to say this morning, but I don't know, we're in different time zones. I don't even know what time it is where you are and where I am, but
Thank
is
you.
there sort of, so if you've said something and someone's like, I really need to talk to this lady about pricing or about niching, what's the best way to get in contact with you, and make sure that you tell us the name of your podcast while you're going?
Uh, yes, well, you can come and listen to me talk all sorts of things over on my podcast, which is called She's the Business. And you'll find that on any of your podcasting apps or platforms. And make sure you check out Jen's episode as well. I'm not sure what the number was, but we had a great chat on that one a little while ago. And you can find me. Look, I happen to be on most of the social platforms. Don't go looking for me on TikTok because it's terrible. It's my experimentation, and anyway, I'm usually on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, so if you put Jessica Osborne, that's got no E on the end, then you will find me. And I am on my website, which is jessicaosborne.com, so you can reach out on socials if you just want to have a quick chat, something like that in the DMs, more than happy to do it. Otherwise, you can go and stalk me and suss out my website and get in touch the more formal way. So that's up to you.
Yeah. Brilliant. I will have all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on, having a chat to us about pricing. I really think that my listener will now be deep in thought and hopefully going back to have a look at their prices. Because it's one way that we can grow our businesses is to make sure that we are charging what we're worth, so that we're here to service more and more people. So great discussion. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation and got something out of it, especially when it comes to putting up your prices. If you want to have more conversations on the subject, come and join me and the fun in my Facebook group, Like Minded Business Owners. You can find the link in the show notes, or just go to Facebook and click type in Like Minded Business Owners, and my group will pop up. I would love to see you over there. Or if you are a member, let's start a conversation about raising prices. Of course, you can come to the show notes, which can be found at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/262. And in those show notes, you can find all the links to Jess's socials, her website, etc. But pretty much, if you typed in Jessica Osborne, Osborne doesn't have an E on the end, on Google, I'm sure that she will pop up a gazillion times. But that's it, my friends, for episode 262. If you love this episode and found it valuable, I would love for you to take 30 seconds out of your day and leave me a rating and a review if that's something you can do while you are listening to this. Because there's a goal of mine that I've had all year, and that is to reach more people with this podcast. And leaving me a review or a rating really helps me achieve that goal. And the end of the year is nigh, so I would love you to do that even more. Otherwise, I'll see you next week for podcast episode 263. Thanks again to Turn Back Time Radio for your support. You can, of course, go and have a listen at turnbacktime.radio. And if we're not already friends on social, what's going on? Please come and find me on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, my favorite, LinkedIn, but don't tell the other social media platforms that I have a favorite. You can actually find me lurking on TikTok a little bit these days. I'm repurposing some content over there. But whatever you do, my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.